Le arranco las piernas y me voy corriendo.
Cuando a tu marido le encuentro dormido, le arranco las piernas y me voy contigo.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Bianca Collins, the Curator of Public Programs for the Fowler Museum at UCLA. As a land-grant institution, UCLA acknowledges the Gabrielino Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of the Los Angeles Basin, Southern Channel Islands, and are grateful to have the opportunity to work for the indigenous peoples in this place. We pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and our relatives past, present, and emerging. The Fowler is very pleased to present today's program as part of our World Arts Local Lives digital programs. This is the first program of our Festivals in the City of Angels initiative funded by the Lilly Endowment, which connects museum programs with communities across the city in order to better understand manifestations of lived religions in LA and honor local expressions of global faith. Today's program, Dia de los Muertos en Linares Studio, is presented in partnership with Self-Help Graphics and Arts, the leading nonprofit visual arts center serving the Latino community of Los Angeles. Founded in 1970 in the heart of East LA, Self-Help Graphics and Art is dedicated to the production, interpretation, and distribution of prints and other art media by Chicana, Chicano, and Latinx artists. Their multidisciplinary, intergenerational programs promote artistic excellence and empower our community by providing access to space, tools, training, and capital. They have been the local driver of Dia de los Muertos community celebrations through such activities as processions and papier-mâché workshops, teaching folks how to make their own skeleton or skull. We're honored to be part of their annual celebration this year through this program and a Make Your Own Calaca workshop in 5 parts that you can find on our website. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Self-Help Graphics teaching artist William Macedo, who will teach us about the history of the center and its connection to Linares Studio, who made cartonerías, papier-mâché sculptures, ubiquitous in Mexico and subsequently in LA. We will also be joined by Norma, Edgar, and Leila Coronado, community members who learned the craft of papier-mâché calacas from William Macedo and Self-Help Graphics and then became masters themselves. Before we get going, a bit of technical housekeeping. I encourage you to stay on speaker view, not gallery mode, so William or the Coronados are front and center during the program. All participants will stay muted until the end of the program when the floor is open for questions and sharebacks. When the time comes, please use the raise hand function, which can be found by clicking participants at the bottom of your Zoom screen and then selecting raise hand button on the bottom right-hand side of the participant window. We will unmute you so you can ask your questions or share back before moving on. We'd like to begin tonight with the short reel highlighting the outstanding work achieved by the Linares family as exhibited in 5 distinct works in the Fowler's collection. Indeed, the catalyst for this program. Enjoy.
My name is William Acelo, and for the last 15 years, fellow artist Ezra Torres Starkey and I have been holding paper mache workshops at Self Help Graphics to make paper mache skulls and skeletons and procession puppets for the celebration of the Day of the Dead. I've got to tell you, I love the Mexican tradition of paper mache Day of the Dead. Modernity, our modern culture really has no way for us to grieve the loss of a loved one. And through the Day of the Dead, they encourage us to make an altar to celebrate the life of a loved one. And the paper mache, the skeletons, help to bring life, help to bring, animate the stories that we tell of the loved ones that we have lost. And this tradition gives us permission this tradition gives us permission to celebrate a life. Whereas, someone might say, oh, they're dead, they're in a better place, stop crying. Where in this case, you are encouraged to remember them, to put things together and to tell stories and celebrate. And I have to really thank the Linares family for popularizing the paper mache in Mexico, because with their great quality, with their great work, they really have, it has just entered every hamlet, every town in Mexico has access to paper, cardboard, some form of glue, whether it be flour or corn or potato, and they can make these wonderful figurines that can dance and animate and tell the stories of our loved ones. A brief history in Los Angeles. In the 1970s, Sister Karen opened Self Help Graphics and Art in East LA in order to bring art education into a very underserved community. She had art classes in the center, but also would have a barrio artmobile, a mobile art studios that would go out into the community, and she would hold workshops for the Day of the Dead. They would hold these great Day of the Dead celebrations, and the community came out and brought their love for the paper mache skeletons and skulls to create what we do, the skulls and the calacas and the procession puppets for this great procession that they would have from the Evergreen Cemetery in Boyle Heights. They would walk, they would gather there, have a mass, have a danzante, have a blessing, and walk up Brooklyn Avenue, which is now Cesar Chavez, in 100, 150 people, all decorated, all dressed up, and then arrive for a great music celebration and art show there at Self Help Graphics. And this was going on in the 70s and into the 80s, and it just grew and became very popular, of course, with the youth. And the 80s and 90s really was like this great time in Chicano art in Los Angeles. And of course, Self Help Graphics, the center of music, they held incredible performances from bands from all over Latin America, and Self Help Graphics really representing Los Angeles. The artists that involved came forward and took the paper mache and represented Los Angeles within the paper mache. I remember seeing all kinds of, I would go to the shows. I remember seeing bands like Cypress Hill, El Crudo from Peru, dancing on the stage with calacas. At this time, Sister Karen, very smart, one of the Linares family was coming to Los Angeles and was giving a presentation in Pasadena at the Folk Tree in Pasadena. And she paid to have one of the young kids, one of the teenage phenomenons there, to take classes with Jesus Linares to do his workshop. And when he came back, energized, everybody was energized. We went and saw the show there. I didn't go, they went and saw the show there. And I really feel that just supercharged that time with the great youth culture explosion that was happening at that time, created a golden era of paper mache, calacas and skulls and puppets. It grew. You would think it's not just lowriders and motorbikes, it's music, it's art, it's fashion, incredible fashion show using the paper mache, using the skeletons. Some of your favorite Chicano artists all did incredible work. And every year it got bigger. But unfortunately, and very sadly, at the time, at the end of the 90s, Self-Help Graphics was going through a series of hits. They the roof was collapsing. They had to cut their programming, and that momentum of artists shifted over to Hollywood Forever to help to create their massive spectacle, which we all know. And just so if you look at that incredible work that you see at Hollywood Forever, a lot of it has its roots in the youth culture of the 1980s and 90s. And but at that sad time, the Catholic Church had to sell the property that Self-Help Graphics was based out of in East LA. Self-Help Graphics found their doors closed. They had to, they're protecting the artwork on the inside, all their prints, all their paintings and such. And that left the community workshops to be out into the parking lot. And a few of the people like Dewey Tafoya were still having workshops. And I spoke to the young kid who went to go see Jesus Linares and who was doing the workshops with the great Tony Dominguez, who went to go to Hollywood Forever. And he had to go and take care of his mom in Texas. And I was like, oh, it's a shame. We really need to continue those workshops in any way we can. And he said, well, if you just hold a workshop, the community will show up. And I didn't know very much about Day of the Dead. I didn't know very much about paper mache. And so I announced a workshop just to the community, just word of mouth. And the very first time, they definitely showed up. Ezria, who I've now partnered with in these workshops, she was a young woman with her little brother, and she showed up, and her family makes piñatas, and she brought her engrudo recipe and her techniques. And the very first year, we had a fantastic turnout of people with, buckets. We had to have buckets of water. We were out in the parking lot. We couldn't go inside, but yet we had a fantastic procession with easily a couple of dozen skulls and skeletons. And from then on, it just got a little worse for Self-Help Graphics. We had to move the workshops to the parks, to the to like Obregon Park and Hollenbeck Park. No source of water, no source of electricity. Kind of set up there on the grass, and we couldn't be making the kind of paper mache that Self-Help Graphics was really famous for. That real, just grand, elaborate, the kind of stuff that the Linares would be proud of to see happening in Los Angeles. So, but Ezria devised this wonderful way to make a skull in 2.5 hours out of just 99-cent store materials, a beach ball or a play ball, some cupcake holders, and kids would just show up, families would show up. They in the parks, we hold a workshop and they just like, oh, what are you doing here? Well, oh, you're having a paper mache workshop. What should we do? And we say, well, it's kind of like Mr. Potato Head. We have the materials laid out in front of them, and people they know exactly what to do. They put together the eyes, go on the ball, the nose goes here, they put in cheekbones, and right away we had an incredible success. So when the Self-Help Graphics did do their procession, did have their event, we had an incredible turnout of community with paper mache skulls. It's now we're entering an era to where Self-Help Graphics has a new building. They have new programming. They have a new administration. They've stepped forward in a very serious way. They've been incredibly supportive of our paper mache workshops. And so we have incredible community members like the Coronados who have stepped up and stepped in and have brought what I believe is going to be a new golden era of paper mache calacas and calaveras and procession puppets in Los Angeles. Thank you.
All right, Norma, you guys can take us through the slideshow now.
Okay, well, this is a...
Or like William's side, he's the history.
I'll pick up on the early stuff, and then Norma, you can jump, and you guys can jump in to the modern day. So yeah, this is an incredible example of the 1970s. You see the fearlessness, you see masks, you see that big procession head. You know, this is a lot of the people who make this, they're not artists, they're not builders, they're just people who want to participate in the Day of the Dead, who want to celebrate the incredible power that the Day of the Dead has of bringing our loved ones to life, bringing the memory of our loved ones to life, celebrating the lives of our loved ones. And with that enthusiasm, you will see a fearlessness in the building in the next few photos. Excellent, the dog's head. They would start at the Evergreen Cemetery with a big celebration. You can see some of the pillars in the back with music and a big blessing. Norma, if you want to comment about the...
My comment on this picture, which I had not seen before, is that the dancers play a very important role in this community event, because they are the connection to this pre-colonial tradition that has grown, and their presence is very important for that. As we find our ways to connect to our roots. And the Virgencita, she represents Tonantzin. She's our mother. She must always be present. That is something that's very strong in our people. And you may have people that may cross the border and have nothing, not even $1, but what they have is their faith. And that is why La Morenita is always present. And that's the danzante's importance in these events.
Great example of the fearlessness of making a skeleton, and just what a fun spectacle, and what of an animation it brings to the procession. The fashion, the clothes. You have a little Pachuco in the front there. That's it. You can see Evergreen Cemetery in the back, and people would come out. People would, as the you know, this is an unsanctioned procession. They didn't ask permission. There's no police escort, and there's just, you know, a couple of 100 and something people walking down the street celebrating Day of the Dead, and the community would come out, bang on pots. Workers would come out, jump in, join in, dance around. It would be led by the danzante, and then the Virgen, and then the Calacas. A great poster. You could see how many different events there would be in a self-help graphics event. They have a night procession. They have the parade. They have a quiet indigenous ceremony, a public arts center, a Catholic mass, and then of course the music and entertainment. And you know, when I'm talking music and entertainment, we're really talking about some of the best of Latin and Chicano music that you could hear anywhere. You know, from bands like Tierra and Malo and Tuolin, Los Lobos, of course. Great stuff, even to this day.
Yes, now it's Las Cafeteras and, you know, this generations. So it's growing. Yeah, this is the ritual that is very much a part of these of this event, is because it's not just a procession. There's faith in it. It's very spiritual. It's the danzantes blessing is very, very important. Also, a very deep connection to our roots of pre-colonial times. And to see the danzantes also is very uplifting because they're carrying on these very ancient traditions.
Again, the danzantes on the parade, they show all the time, and they are the first, they are always in the front to lead in the procession. William?
Oh, I like this one. I like this one. This is great. This is exactly what you could see at a Day of the Dead procession at Self-Help Graphics.
This is the copalera, obviously. The ahumación, and it's just an important ritual, and it just to see that has survived all these years. I think that's amazing in itself. It's important. I love this picture. I had not seen it until today. And it just shouts out an empowered woman embracing her culture and uplifting herself. And I think that's a beautiful and creative way.
This is a skull that was made out when we were out in the parking lot. There's still, we wouldn't be able to go inside, but this one was made by a young boy who, of course, the boys always want to make a punk rocker mohawk and a little goatee, but good example. Workshops in progress.
That's a calavera that we made for the Ciclavia that the city of LA holds. And Edgar can tell you more about it.
This is the violinist, represent LA. You can see on the dress, probably in the next picture, they got the city on the dress and they got the theater.
I can explain a little more about so the city of LA has the Ciclavia throughout various parts of LA. We decided to make 4 different calaveras because it was for the 100th anniversary of the Philharmonic, and so it was a joint celebration. And so the Divina is a violinist, and we wanted her to represent LA. And so the concept we developed about LA is that LA is a colorful place. It's a creative city. And when tourists come to LA, I think you often see palm trees in their pictures and kind of associate palm trees with LA. But on her dress, where you can't see it on this picture, there'll be another picture. You will see the silhouette of downtown LA. And we wanted to make it LA, but also remind people that before all that, there were people here. There are people here. The Tongbas, and the Tiat is at the bottom of her dress as the foundation of the city of LA.
This is a great example of a family who are also danzantes, like Norma and Edgar, and they made this little character, and they made it so it shakes. So you come and you touch it, and the rattles would rattle on his ankles. But you could see the great work that they did with the costume, and that you know that is culturally organic. That's the real deal, like you will see in Edgar's work. It is the real spirit being brought forth into life. And, you know, and the excuse is making a calaca that's going to dance at the procession of, for Day of the Dead. But what that allows is just a lot of beautiful culture that you know is there. It needs to come forward, and it's the invisible that becomes visible. This is when we first moved back into the new self-help graphics, and when we finally have a real infrastructure, a real space to work, and so we took advantage of it, and just it's a good example of some of the crops. You'll see procession, a lot of procession puppets in that one. Jack Skeleton, you'll see the big skull. We always try to make at least one large skull because there's a lot of little kids that show up that want to participate, but yet making their own skull is kind of a little above their, that they still want to play. And so the big skull allows for all the little kids to be able to build something and participate as well. Everything you see is decorated by the people who show up, which is, I think, one of my favorite part of the workshops, where it is entirely driven by community creativity. You know, not necessarily artists, not necessarily builders, but definitely creative, definitely a fearless wanting to participate. Norma, you have a great story about the headset, the trenzas.
Oh, yes. Thank you, William. The slide before that with the two heads, that year we were actually able to make two big heads. Usually it's only one big calavera. And the braid on the calavera, the first calavera, that was something that Ezria Torres came up with. And the way that she quickly figured out it, she improvised how to braid. We're gonna put a braid on it, well, how? And she just starts twisting rolls of paper. And I thought, what is she doing? And I said, Ezria, what are you doing? She said, I'm making a braid. And then a few minutes later, I see like a big long strip of paper being twisted by various people, like 10 people. And between, I don't know, half a dozen people or so, they made a braid, and it looks lovely. And I think that paper mache, you can improvise and everything goes and everything will look awesome.
If I can add to that, there was like, 50-foot long strips of paper, and the ones, two people would grab a string of that paper, roll it up, and then they would dance over each other as they braided it. And it was I wish we would have filmed it. They had, because they know how to make a braid, and it's just the same thing, only much, much, much larger. This photo, you get a good idea of just how quick and how the fearlessness of the, Mr. Potato Head style of making this, to where you can see behind that, that's a beach ball, and they, a couple of bowls that they use for eyes, a little cardboard nose that they put on, and everybody knows that that's what they're going to be doing. So nobody really asks. They're like, okay, what's the first step? Well, first step is put on the eyes. Well, what's the next step? Well, then put on a nose. Well, what's the next step? Well, then put on some cheekbones. Well, what's the next step? Well, then put on the jaw. And then bam, they're all right at that point. They're already starting to cover it with the first layer of paper mache. And a lot of our participants don't come back, especially when we were in the parks. So you can make a skull in 2.5 hours, which is just crazy. But if you do come back, then you have a chance to put another layer, a stronger layer. And then my favorite part of the workshop is the last workshop of the 4 weeks, which is the decoration workshop. You never know what's going to happen. And often, you'll see something like this and it'll turn into this beautiful thing, and then it'll disappear. And the only time you'll see it again is during the event. If I can comment about this, this is a great example of the large skulls that we made, because usually some adult, in this case, somebody's father there, who are not related to these two boys, they just teamed up with Layla, who you see over there, and to shape the skull. And to shape it, meaning like the kids were like, oh, we want bigger eyes. Oh, we want a bigger mouth. We want this. And so in a way, those two brothers were the designers. The man behind them and myself were the builders. And then Layla jumped right in to lead the team of decoration. And that's how that skull came to be. And that's how our skulls come to be.
Love her eyelashes and her big lips. I think she looks beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
The little kids.
That's Layla.
One time we had a group from the Braille Institute for the Blind show up with a group of 12 kids. And you would think like, oh, blind kids doing paper mache, but they were the best. They were the best. We were making some large Lupita dolls, and they knew how to shape. They knew how to tactfully interact with the shape, and like they could do it. They can sculpt and do great paper mache, from the Braille Institute. This is one of our Katrinas for the procession. That's somebody's uncle who likes cigars and San Marcos brandy, and they held it up on like during the procession, they held it on a large pole so that they could walk it. It was always like staggering down the street with his drink and running into stuff, which is, they weren't just making fun of their uncle, but also they obviously loved their uncle. The one next to it, which you see right there, that is one of my favorite pieces to speak about. That was done by some girls from Ford Middle School who showed up with their moms, and they started out just making the skull, and then they would ask like, oh, can we put a hat on it? And of course the answer is yes, of course you can. Then they asked like, oh, can we make earrings? Yes, you can make earrings. Oh, can we make a body? Well, yeah, of course you can make a body. Go for it, and they came back every week, and every week they just upped their game. First week they had the skull. Next week they had the hat. Next week they had the body. The fourth week they had the dress. They had the dress. That was entirely built and designed by girls at Ford Middle School, especially Iris. Her and her mom were the leader. They painted it, they decorated down to the nails, down to the high-heeled shoes and toes. And genius, that little girl's a genius. I hope she's an engineer now.
This is a slide of 2011, the big Calavera. And this is what I show here is the picture at the bottom is where Layla starts doing some manga drawings. And I said, well, Layla, this is not where you do manga. And William corrected me and said, oh yeah, sure, it's okay, go for it. And so I learned something that day, and that's that anything goes. And it looked beautiful once the calavera was finished. And that's the thing about paper mache. There's no right or wrong way, and every calavera will just look beautiful once you're done with it.
In this calavera, okay, and last calavera, Ezria put a chair inside the calavera. So she decided to use a chair and build the calavera around the chair. So,
yeah, a plastic chair was the foundation for that, to hold that structure. This is, again, 2012. There's Ezria with us in the top picture. William and Ezria run the photo booth at the event. And there's always a very long line. It's a very popular thing. Everybody wants their picture with the calaveras that they put out there for people to compose their photo. And so that's the big calavera for that year. And in the middle, on the left-hand side, you might see Senora Ofelia Esparza working on her altar, which was also always very special, that we're working on the paper mache, and then you've got people creating paper flowers, tissue flowers, and then you've got the altar being made, being prepared. So a lot's going on in preparation for this. And it's really, really a beautiful experience.
I just want to mention the thing about the photo booth. The photo booth has like this magical power because people will dress up in incredible. They'll spend so much on an outfit, so much on a setup, turn themselves into walking altars. And the photo booth is just a donation, and we take a photo with your phone. We have not even done a good job of taking photos of some of the best stuff that comes through the photo booth, but it's there to harness that energy that shows up to one of these events, which is why there's such a long line. And when you get one of these people who are just, you know, with a monarch butterfly wings and incredible dress and all that, it's an amazing spectacle. And so the photo booth is just almost there just as a mirror, you know, to like, you put so much work into showing up just to sanction it on a stage, take a photo.
This is one of the first calaveras we make with a little bit different. The other one was Jenny. The first one was the one we built first, but the second one is the Campesino. And this one we started built a little bit different and more design and a little bit more details.
So on this one, the slide before that, are you able to show that, Erica? So this calavera was our first full-bodied calavera, and we didn't make it. William asked us to work for Layla, and Layla decided on the spot she wants to honor Jenny Rivera. And William tells us, go to the closet there and choose something that you can work with. And so we did. We went in there. It was very interesting, all the calaveras that William has said are orphaned. And we chose one and we refurbished her, and we brought Jenny Rivera back, and people just loved her. She is very well loved. The pictures that surface in the internet with Jenny were just very touching, and people just loved her. It was a very deep experience to make her, because I had to learn about her, and I became an admirer of her as a very strong woman and a mother and daughter. And the Campesino was our very first full-figured calavera. So this one we made completely. And Layla decided that year that we wanted to honor the campesinos, the farm workers, and their hard labor, and to tell a story about their hard labor. So at the bottom, she's painting some strawberries that we had on the pelvis to make the connection of the pesticides that our farm workers are often exposed to, and throughout his body, like he will have carrots on his hands. Some of our relatives have worked in Bakersfield in the carrot processing, and they get they've had to have surgery on their hands for the processing. So there's a lot of risks, and that's what we were speaking to.
This is the Calavera al Pachuco. This Calavera represents pretty much Los Angeles. We want to make something represent exactly Los Angeles. And
we actually wanted to also teach about, or remind really about the very difficult period in the 40s when the Zoot Suit riots, and our people were very much oppressed, and even it was illegal to wear the Zoot Suit. And that's what that speaks to. The tie ties us back to our roots. This is the Divina, and that's what we were talking about with the Tiat at the bottom. which shows the foundation of a great city of Los Angeles, but there were people here before and they are still here. And that is something that we felt was important.
And there's the Danzante del Venado. It's one of William's favorite calaveras.
And the upper left is Edgar with a conductor calavera made. The reason why we decided on this picture, it also shows the newspaper applied on it. This is not finished. And this is the Smithsonian actually invited us to go, and Self-Help Graphics and Senora Ofelia Esparza were they mentioned us and recommended us. And so this is last year at the National Museum of the American Indian, where we presented how paper mache is used in the Dia de los Muertos celebration. And we made a Catrina in the style of Guadalupe Posada with a cholo squinkle that you may not be able to see at the bottom right, because but we have it here. And this takes us to now 2020. We are exploring other things. You can make anything with paper mache, and anyone can do this.
This is the triciclo. This triciclo, this calavera represent the city of angels, and it's riding a bike. And on the bottom is the conductor.
And the conductor was made for the Philharmonic's 100th anniversary. And one thing that is very special about the conductor is that in his eyes, what he sees is his musicians. So his orchestra. So if you look at his eyes closely, you will see that. And what we were trying to project is what occupies a conductor when he's in his thing, you know. And so.
And you can do more figures with paper mache, not only calaveras. We do like the dog, the cholo squinkle, or the piggy. So you can do a lot of things with paper mache. And
it's up to your imagination. All you need is water and flour or cornstarch or whatever. You know, there's so many ways to do it, but it's simple and it's a fun process that's also very therapeutic. It's calming.
And when we start working with paper mache, William teach us, William and Esria, when we start like 13, 14 years ago, and we didn't do anything with paper mache. Now, paper mache took us to the Smithsonian, and now we can make big pieces. I think everybody can do these pieces if they can continue to go to the shops.
Yes, we actually started with William in 2008. So it's, if you do the math, it's a little bit more than 13 years. We don't keep track, but it's been a really, really beautiful experience. And the reason why we keep going back every single year, I think, is because we get support. William tells us we can do it. So that's what he tells everyone. So oh, okay, yeah, yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's no barriers.
You're invited. You are invited.
And everyone's invited. Everyone can do it from home, actually, with that amazing workshop that William created for us. Again, everyone, it's a 5-part workshop, all on video. You can make your own calaca out of household materials. It's a super cool project to do as a family this season. God, we're so lucky to have Self-Help Graphics and Art and these paper mache workshops in LA. I mean, it's so beautiful to see what has come of them. They've helped us build such a rich culture in East LA. So thank you guys so much for this presentation. It was so interesting to take a look back with you guys. I want to move into I think we have about 5 minutes for a couple Q&As or share backs. If anyone wants to be unmuted to ask a question or share the way that you celebrate Dia de los Muertos or your own paper mache practice, we'd be happy to hear from you. Just use the raise hand function and we'll unmute you.
Bianca, can I just mention something real quick? That is, if I can mention something real quick, if you're taking the workshops that the Fowlers has online, you can just do the skull. You can just do the head, and you could probably do that in just a few days. Let me show you one. The same workshop. That way you're not doing all the arms, you're not doing all the legs and stuff. But you can do this little guy probably in a couple of days with your family, with a couple of rolls of toilet paper rolls, a little bit of cardboard and some newspaper and some engrudo, some of the mix. And then I also want to invite you to Self-Help Graphics is having the Grand Park tomorrow. These calacas here are going to be part of a bicycle procession that in a historical reenactment. It's going to be part of the Grand Park celebration. And also on November 1st, the following Sunday, Self-Help Graphics is going to have a car procession. And you should check selfhelpgraphics.org for the information and where they meet up. Decorate your vehicle as a moving altar to a loved one. Celebrate the life of someone who you love in the Day of the Dead procession. Thank you. Thanks, Bianca.
Awesome. All right, Jacqueline, it's over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. Well, first of all, we really love and appreciate and honor this. We have actually, we've gotten to go to, when Self-Help, I studied at Self-Help, the folk tree, we did with one of the Linares family, we did a skeleton. Yeah. Skeleton making workshop. So, I mean, and our house is full of so much Latina artwork. We're just yo te amo mucho, you know, and we've done altars. So we're just so delighted to see this, and I can't wait to try, you know. Thank you so much, you know, William, and all of you. I can't wait to try making our own, how do you say it? Calaca?
Calaca. That's
Calaca. And so we're so excited about that. And thank you. This has just been fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Michael, do you want to say anything,
no, that's
dear?
good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh, that's so cool. So Devanshi also has her hand raised. I'm going to unmute her.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing the slideshow and just your memories going over, you know, the year. So a question that I had, it's related to, you know, you showed the design of like the calacas and how they're like they're a collaborative effort. So I wanted to know how have the designs kind of evolved with the years? Like, have you noticed that like, you know, pop culture that's topical things have like affected the way that people design these?
That's a really good question. I would say that the design in terms of the decoration, definitely driven by pop culture. I wish I would have got a photograph of this. A great example is every time a celebrity dies, you can rest assured that you're going to see that celebrity at the next year's Day of the Dead. When Amy Winehouse died, these girls, you know, and it's mostly girls that show up to our workshops. The boys show up late, you know, so it's like, you only have an hour to do this. You should have come earlier on time. But they did Amy Winehouse with, you know, they kind of put a skull quickly together, but then they did the hairdo. It was 3.5 feet tall and they did it perfect. Absolutely, you just look at it and you know it's Amy Winehouse. You look at someone else did a Prince, someone else did David Bowie recently. And so definitely pop culture is in the decoration. But in terms of the design, you know, there's, we kind of do it in a very fast, very, you know, make sure that everybody can have something that they can decorate type of way. But then you get these people like the Coronados who just step up and step in and bring it to another level, and also bring their heart, their things that they love and want to speak about things that and celebrate. And once again, to make the invisible visible through the paper mache. Edgar, you want to say something or?
I'd like to say something after
Okay.
you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like I say, you can build any calaveras. Like if you have an idea, you can start working with the paper mache, working with fire, and it's a lot of different ways to make the calaveras and a lot of different ideas. It's up to you.
Yes, I just was going to add that in paper mache and calaveras, it's all up to your imagination. What would you like your figure to do? Do you want it to stand and look like it's flying? Do you want it to look like it's biking? Do you want it to be flexible and bounce around so that when you pull the string, it's looking very animated? It really is up to you. And whether you use a hanger or you use pipe cleaners or whatever you have, you make it work. And it's a great project to exercise improvisation, because none of our pieces are made exactly the same. They are all very, very different.
We use a lot of recycled material, parts of bicycles, any pipes that you can use or any material you can find on the calaveras. So everything is about imagination.
Yes, throughout the year we'll be doing something around the house and we'll say, oh, save this for October. We can use this for the calaveras. And that's the it.
All right, we've got another question from Anne. I've already unmuted you, Anne.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I love and respect this form of art so much. And have been to celebrations here. I'm coming to you from Astoria, Oregon. I'm a UCLA grad. And I watched the workshop today. And I've been to celebrations here, wonderful. And I was wondering if anyone could speak to the wonderful color palette that is where this particular, these marvelous colors that add so much to the whole celebration. And you know, I'm looking at these flowers and these incredibly wonderful bright colors. Can anyone talk to me more about anything behind that? Or
Layla
tend to be very colorful. Layla can talk about the top Xoloscuincle that we did for someone very dear to us. And we wanted to reflect something about that person's culture. Would you like to say something, Layla?
Usually I look at patterns. So it'll be patterns from pottery that's from Mexico, or even the bordado.
The embroideries. Mexico also is very rich in embroideries. I'm a big fan of embroidery. So yeah, it's I love color, a vibrant color. The more the merrier, and it's just really up to you. What do you want your piece to be? A certain shade or tones? It's really up to you. Our pieces tend to be vibrant the more you get towards me having anything to do with it. And Edgar's, he has a different style, but still they come out very colorful. I think color is just part of it.
All right. I think we have just time for one last question. Oh, sorry, William, did you have something? I'm just
going to add very quickly that like on the decoration day, you know, we always get the question, well, how should we decorate our calaca? Or you know, some people know automatically, but we say, begin with the tradition. And like, oh, what is that? Well, you look at, just like Layla's saying, you know, delving into things that where you would consider the tradition, but then as Devanshi was kind of intimating to, then it just takes off from there. So like, you know, begin with the tradition and then bring it to somewhere else, make it modern, make it yours, make it mean something.
Yeah. All right, Ellen, over to you.
Hi, Coronados. It's wonderful to see your work. I have a question and a request. The question is, first of all, Norma, it's great to meet you. I wonder what you do with your calacas when the season is over. And then the other is, could you please tell everyone what you did for 2020, this particular year, having to do with the centennial of women's suffrage?
Oh. Well, you want to start?
Yeah, the calaveras after Day of the Dead finish, we storage and we try to keep in a safe place. And for this year, we start making one piece. Is the you talk about the piece outside?
It's a very special for a very special person, and Edgar's been working really hard, and we hope to have her ready on time. And we haven't really said anything to anyone, but for Halloween we decided to make a suffragette, and it was just made out of chicken wire, but a lot of our calaveras have that kind to shape them. And so that's what we decided. The pandemic's not gonna take away Dia de Muertos. We're gonna find a way to keep going. And so part of that was it allowed us more time to think things through. So we're currently working on a piece that I think is gonna be one of our finest pieces in terms of the quality that we're putting into it, because this person is pretty special. And we'll tell you now, because we're going to do our very best. This is for RGB. And Edgar is working really hard, and we're going to do our absolute best.
Wow.
Right on.
That is going to be so, so amazing to see. Norma, I don't know if you guys want to drop your Instagram handle, because I just discovered it and it seems like you guys take some really good content. So if you don't mind, I can share that with people so they can see your RBG when it's ready.
Sure.
Okay. So let's see. Actually, do you guys just want to say what it is? Because I can't find it immediately.
It's Viva_Calacas. Viva_Calacas.
Okay, yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, William, Edgar, Norma, Leila, for sharing your creativity and your passions with us today. It was a really rich conversation. I see a lot of smiling faces. So thank you everyone who joined us as well. This program has been recorded. It will be available on our website and on our Instagram for you to revisit and share, certainly before Dia de los Muertos. We hope that you guys will join us again. Details for the next program will be found on the closing slide. Thank you, everyone. See you again.
Thank you, everyone.